Nobody would argue and say, no, no, I don't like evidence-based practice, we shouldn't do it, it makes no sense, it's silly. Nobody basically disagrees that it's a bad idea. So why doesn't it happen? And this is a key point, I think, for lots of practitioners, including HR practitioners. Things get in the way. There's lots of things. I think the first thing that gets in the way are very strong beliefs people have about what's going on in their world. For example, Mark Twain said, it ain't what you know that gets you into trouble, it's what you know for sure that just ain't so. In other words, having beliefs which are completely untrue can actually cause a lot of problems when it comes to making decisions. In the context of HR, for example, typical HR managers, and I've tested this a few times, often believe, for example, that the rate at which people change jobs has been increasing. But if you look, for example, at US and UK data, the evidence suggests the rate at which people change jobs, or how long people stay in a job, has not only remained about the same for the last 20 years, it's actually slightly increased. And again, another example of this is job satisfaction. People often believe that job satisfaction, again, in the last 15 to 20 years, has reduced. But in fact, again, if you look at the data, and this includes Norwegian data as well, actually, it has hardly changed in the last 15 or 20 years. So if you are a manager, an HR manager, and you have the assumption, for example, that people are trying to quit all the time and that people are very unhappy, you will take different kinds of actions if you don't believe that. So exposing, doing some of this myth busting is an important part of evidence-based practice because those myths get in the way of actually seeking and finding out what might be going on. That's the first thing. The second thing that gets in the way, and there are many more I'm not going to talk about today, but the second thing that gets in the way is management fads and fashions. It seems to me, and it's true again of other fields, that HR is a field that is very, very full of fads and fashions. From things like emotional intelligence to certain aspects of management development, things like performance management, performance appraisals, ideas come in and out within HR. Apparently new ideas turn out to be old ideas, and old ideas that are rejected sometimes turn out to be quite good ideas in the long term. So one of the things HR has to do is be very careful that when a new idea comes along, like big data or data analytics, it's actually a useful and helpful idea as opposed to just the latest bright, shiny thing that seems exciting and seems like a good idea. So again, fads and fashions are things that can get in the way of really taking an evidence-based approach. I think the third thing I'm going to talk about that gets in the way is power and politics. One of the main blockages, I think, to people using more evidence in organisations is it challenges traditional ways of thinking about power. If you're a very senior manager in an organisation, you probably got to be senior not by being such a great evidence-based manager or practitioner. You probably got to that position by being really good at politics. That means you know how to impress people, you say what people higher up want you to hear, you're very ambitious to get ahead in the organisation, and what you're particularly good at is doing stuff, not necessarily doing stuff that works. So there's a related concept here as a quick fix, and many people have experience of working in organisations with managers who are promoted very rapidly, and indeed they do a lot of stuff. Is that stuff any good? Sometimes not so much, and they can leave a trail of destruction behind them, but nonetheless be promoted very quickly because they're very good at making things happen. Evidence-based practice means you can challenge some of that behaviour and say, why are we making that decision? Let's look at the evidence, what's going on. And in a way, it's nothing to do with status or authority. Potentially, anybody from any position, hierarchical position in the organisation can challenge and say, well, what's the evidence for this? What's the question? So I think power and politics is something else that gets in the way. And there's lots of other things as well, including, for example, the training of HR professionals. Are they trained in an evidence-based way? And generally not. I think some management consultancies are very useful. I think some management consultancies are quite poor in this context, as they do tend to promote and generate fads. So there's a whole range of things that get in the way. And it's important to think about those because evidence-based practice makes sense to most people. If we can think about what gets in the way, there's more chance of doing it.